Hi guys, I'm just another guy named James, and today I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite comic book stories of all time, and that is Green Lantern Emerald Dawn. So, Emerald Dawn was a six-part miniseries, well, six-part series released by DC in 1989. It focuses on Green Lantern and what I call his two-part origin. You have his obvious origin, how he gets his powers, and also how his powers change him. So let's jump right in with part one. Oh, actually, first let me just say, the series was written by James Owsley. It was penciled by Mark Bright, and it was inked by Romeo Tanghal. And the first issue picks up with Hal as a kid, and he watches his dad blow up because he crashed a plane. So not a great start for Hal, but it's a good start for superhero Hal, because first law of superheroes is you have to watch your parents or a loved one die, apparently. But after that, we cut to Hal and a bunch of his friends that are drunk in a bar. And they decide to let Hal drive them home. That's not a good idea, because Hal's also drunk. And they end up swerving to avoid this sign. And so, next, and they, obviously get in a wreck. So next up, Hal wakes up in a hospital where he gets just no sympathy, and he's, like the cops are gonna book him for drunk driving. But he's able to go back to work in the meantime, and he's running a flight simulator. He worked as a test pilot also before he got demoted, and now he's a simulator pilot. So he's doing that, and it's like G-force simulators, so like spins and like gyros. So the simulator ends up like flying off, and we see that it's flying towards this alien spaceship. And as it's flying, there's this mysterious voice, which it ends up getting revealed that this mysterious voice is coming from this alien, Abin Sur. And he's pretty much explaining to Hal what it means to be a Green Lantern and like what the Green Lantern Corps does. They're pretty much just space cops. Abin Sur also gives Hal his power ring, and immediately after this, Hal says, like, he gives his ring a very indirect voice command, and he goes skyrocketing, like he's flying. So, and after that, he crashes into the dirt, and he flies to a city, and he calls back to home, where he's talking on the phone, and he finds out that his friend Andy has been paralyzed, and as the issue ends, he's blaming the sign, so he goes flying headfirst through it, because why not? So, issue 2 then picks up where issue 1 left off. Hal wakes up, and he goes to the hospital to visit Andy, and Andy tells him, hey, you need to turn yourself in, which Hal refuses to do. Hal then is flying, and he sees a pilot, and he spooks the pilot, because pilots aren't used to having to see other people flying by them. And so the pilot's crashing, so Hal comes in and saves him. And Carol, who owns the plane that the pilot was flying, thinks this is really impressive. But the pilot doesn't. The pilot thinks Hal's pretty much a hot dog. He's like, just showing off. So anyway, now we're introduced so after this little flash, we're introduced to the villain of the story, Legion, who is the one that killed Abin Sur. And we see that Legion is hunting for the Power Ring. But as Legion's hunting for the Power Ring in the spaceship, Hal decides to turn himself in. And as he's doing that, he thinks to himself, and what the heck, if things go bad, the ring can always bail me out, right? Which is showing that he's not really taking responsibility for his actions. He's just kind of doing this so that his brother and his friend will get off his back about it. But he is booked, and the ring is taken away from him. So he's in prison, and Legion comes busting in and is looking for the Green Lantern. And Hal picks up the ring and he's like, I'm gonna smoke him. And then we get these great facial expressions because the ring is out of power. So Legion grabs him, and then we enter the next part of the story. And in this part, Hal escapes the situation rather cleverly. Because Legion's a robot, he can't actually, see and process information. So Hal, takes off the Green Lantern uniform. So Legion doesn't know he's Green Lantern anymore. And Hal's ring's dead, so it's not giving off energy anymore. So he pretty much just throws Hal off, and Legion goes to trace the power trail. And the power trail ends up leading back to the hospital where Hal's friend was, and it's been obliterated by Legion. And so has Ferris. So, yeah. So as that's happened, so after Hal discovers that Ferris and the ring are, destroyed, Hal is a little bit upset. So he wanders off into the desert, and he goes back to the spaceship, and he recharges his ring. And the ring shows him what happened to Abin Sur. Sur pretty much just got killed by Legion, who is looking for the Guardians of the Universe. And then after that, Hal is attacked by Legion, Hal is being chased through the ship, and Hal's led to the nuclear reactor, which he gives a little blast to, which causes a nuclear explosion. So because of this, Hal thinks he's killed Legion when he wakes up. And he's able to wake up because the ring protects the wearer from energy. And Hal wants to find out if there's any other Green Lanterns. So he asks the ring to take him to one. The ring does, and he meets Tomar Gree, who explains a few things, but his main thing is he ends up taking him to Oa, which is the home of the Green Lanterns. And we get to see the basic origin of Legion. It's on these two splash pages, and the origin is pretty much Legion is a representative of a people who were imprisoned by the Guardians. And Hal is also training with Kilowog, who is shown right there. And he's training until Legion attacks. And Legion is, again, looking for the Guardians. So as issue 5 and 6 roll in, which is the climax of the story, we start to see what makes Hal different from the other Green Lanterns, and why we follow him specifically. And that's that he's not just following the orders of the Guardians or the plans of attack. He's got his own will. He's got his own way of thinking. For example, when Hal needs to fight him, he drenches him in mud. Because, fun fact, the Green Lantern's power rings can actually affect the color yellow. So Hal covers him in mud and beats the crap out of him. And Hal ends up completely destroying the exoskeleton. Inside the exoskeleton is this blob that digs roots into Oa and grows at an exponential rate. So, as this blob is growing and consuming and killing a bunch of the Green Lanterns, the Guardians want to just pull out of Oa, cut their losses. But Hal's like, no, that's not how it goes. And he tries to fight Legion, and the Guardians are calling him off. And Hal comes back with this line. The core is the ultimate knowledge harnessed to the ultimate power. That's how Abin Sur sold it to me. And the Guardians explain to him that the power doesn't come from the rings, but it comes from the central battery shown here. So Hal decides, well, maybe the solution is we just need more power. So he flies into the power battery, and he absorbs a bunch of the power. And after he's absorbed the power, he is able to pull Legion out of the planet. And the rest of the Green Lantern Corps flies him to another planet that's, isolated. So that it can't kill anything else. But the Guardians think, hey, you've got some explaining to do. And because they want to know how he was able to harness so much power. And he doesn't actually know. So the rest of the Green Lantern Corps comes in and talks to him for a little bit. But then Hal ends up going back home to Earth, where he is now the Green Lantern. And he ends up serving his prison term for the DUI, which is, in my opinion, the completion of his personal character arc about taking responsibility. And actually, as the series really wraps up, he's given his old job as a fighter test pilot back. And he's placed in pretty much the same situation that his dad was in when he died. And his plane also blows up, but because he has the power ring, he's able to survive. And that's where the story ends. And honestly, I think that Emerald Dawn is a great origin story. It tells you everything you need to know about Hal as a character, about the world of Green Lantern, and just about everything. I also think it's got a good arc for Hal, where at the beginning of the story, he's not willing to take responsibility at all. Then in the middle, he's willing to take responsibility because he feels like he should, but he doesn't think he should, or something. And then by the end, he is willing to take the responsibility. He thinks he needs to, in fact. And I think that's a very good arc. And it's also got some great action that I'm not sure if I showed off very well. But it's great. And it also exemplifies why Hal is the ultimate Green Lantern. And it's because he follows his own code. And he's not just necessarily a puppet for the Guardians, which I think makes him one of the more unique Green Lanterns. So, and also the combination of Owlsley's storytelling, Bright's art, and Tangal's inks is very good. So I would say if you can, at your local comic stores, try and find this. Here at my house, we found it for very cheap. I think 50 cents an issue, maybe. So it's not expensive, but it's very good. It's actually one of my favorites. And actually, it made me a Green Lantern fan. But anyway, I'm just another guy named James, and I'll see you guys next time. Have a great week.